Hey everyone, it's Gnovat, and today I wanted to bring you a Genesys deck list. This is Chimera Hecahands. I did upload a version of this for Advanced Constructed, and then I said I could upload a Genesys list, but then they have announced that they are going to hit this deck in advance. But the hits were not as bad as I expected them to be. And after cutting some drolls out of the deck, which is no longer feasible in this, I kind of fixed the deck, and I think it is a pretty good deck for the upcoming format. It has one-card starters, it has ways to push through board, and it has some unfair things. So with that, I will go through the main deck, extra deck, and the side deck, and I will have the points on the screen for each and every card. If you think it would be better if I just had the pointed cards right away and then go for the 0-point cards when I do a Genesys deck profile, let me know. For now, I just have it sorted by engines. So we're going to start with 3 Mirror Sword Knight, of course. In Advanced Constructed, I have this at 1, if you saw the deck profile. But in Genesys, Ash Blossom is 15 points, so this is a generally safe normal summon. You just summon it, and you can activate it to summon Gazelle or Bird from your deck, depending on what your hand is. If you have more fusion targets, Gazelle is the safer play, but you can also just go Bird from it. Speaking of Gazelle, we have this as a 3-off. This is a very strong normal summon, of course. Now, you would say this is like 6 normal summons, but generally if you have Gazelle, Mirror Sword Knight, you normal summon the Gazelle, you get Chimera Fusion, and you can just fuse these two and go from there. So they're not really conflicting. So that is the Chimera status. Unfortunately, Cornfield Quaddle is 33 points. And Nightmare Apprentice is 20 points. So you can afford one Nightmare Apprentice. I decided not to. I'll explain that later. I had that before, but with the new points, I think cutting the Nightmare Apprentice is correct. And Quaddle at 33 is just not feasible. So instead, we are running a larger Hecahands engine. So we are maxing out on Iptal. We do that in Advanced Constructed anyway, but in Genesys, we also now max out on Yaddle and on the hidden Hecahands. So we have 15 starters here, whereas 12 of them are one-card starters. Of course, the Hecahands don't bridge into Chimera, but that's just how it is. If you just find the Hecahands with a Chimera fusion, you can probably do something with that. And that is the engine. Generally try to have the most consistency without spending too many points on it. Then we have 2 big wing Baphomet. You can cut this down to 1, but generally I like doing one of them turn 1, the Mirror Sword Knight, if I have just done that starter and then summoning the second one in the opponent's turn. And because the Hecahands do not take your normal summon, you can just go Hecahand combos and then tribute summon this over one of your monsters and just play from there. So this is fine at 2. And then we have, for the big Hecahands, we have 3 Godos. This is an engine piece, but also a hand trap. I think this is a generally good hand trap in Genesys format because it's 0 points and it's very universally usable. So other decks, I think, are gonna at least side this card at some point in the game. But we can search it, and it is also a Hecahands monster, so we can go into engine with this if we steal a monster from your opponent. Then we run 1 Gygas, 1 Breos. Now Gygas has gotten points, I think 5 points for this card, and Breos is still at 0. Whereas I think this is the more toxic card out of the 2. I think just looking at the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck is not as bad as ripping one from your hand, especially since this is much more random. But we still play both of them. You can decide to cut them down, like just play one of them. If you only play one, I would obviously advise to play the Gygas. Right now I'm doing 2, because sometimes, depending on what your opponent plays, sometimes you're at game 2, you know they are on a monster-heavy deck, you can just summon Breos, and you can, with high possibility, steal a monster from their hand. And sometimes, depending on what your hand is, you can just go for the high ceiling play to steal a card from their hand and just have them start with the 1 less card. So I like playing both. And then we have 3 Chimera Fusion. Of course, this is such a good card. It protects your place, you can dodge things, you can make your endboard pieces, you can have it as a disruption. It's just the star of the show here. Then we have all 3 Hecahands spells and traps. Because we are in a larger Hecahands engine, oftentimes we have more than one Hecahands piece, and Hecahands 1-card combo already sets 2 traps. So if we have more engine, we want to go into more, so we just grab the quick play spell. Sometimes I also like to go just for one of the counter traps, depending on what matchup I'm in, and the spell, because this card, if you can resolve it on your turn, it's extremely powerful, because then you'll steal 2 monsters from your opponent's extra deck. Then for the non-engine, we have 2 times spell card Monster Reborn. Now, I had like more pointed cards like Droll and stuff here, but of course I had to switch things around a bit to adjust to the new list. And this was already a side deck card, but now I think this is a generally versatile card going first or second. So going first, you can like set this as a disruption, just Grave Hate, or if your opponent hand traps you, which is really interesting, you can use this to target their hand trap, and now you control a monster owned by your opponent. So that plus any illusion monster in your deck, doesn't have to be a Hecahands, can go into your Hecahands boss monster. And worst case, this is a send for Hidden Hecahands, so you just set it, Hidden Hecahands, send this away, add 2 if you don't have anything to send. So a very, very good card in this deck, I think. And in the worst case also, you can steal a monster from your opponent and tribute summon into a Baphomet. And for the non-engine, Ghost Ogre is just the cheapest hand trap, I think. It's at 3 points. This and Mourner, and I like Ghost Ogre because it takes away resources from your opponent. Of course, it's very early in the format, so adjust your non-engine as you wish. If you think Board Breakers are just very good right now, you can also just go for Board Breakers, and then you have more points to spend on, for example, your Nightmare Apprentice, which would give you another starter and some more rank 6 plays. But one card I really, really like in this format is the Nibiru. Even though it got a bit more expensive, I still think this is a good card to keep combo decks in check. And generally, your deck floats a lot, so even if you go first with a Nibiru in hand, it's really, really hard to just kill you for that. Then I have 3 Effect Veiler. This is the reason why I don't run Nightmare Apprentice. I wanted more good non-engine for a new format where people are going to try things out, and I think Effect Veiler is very, very versatile for that. And the rank 6 plays you can generally still make even without Nightmare Apprentice. I'm going to show you in a second in the combo guide. And then for the last slot, we had 1 deck space open, and we had a couple points left. And we just put in the 1 Ghost Mourner. And I think this puts us at 99 points. Well, we still have the extra deck, and there are some points there. So if you count it, you can maybe guess what's in the extra deck. But for the Chimera part, we play 1 of the normal Chimera, and then we have 2 Baphomet. Generally, this is nice because Baphomet is the one you can make more flexibly because it just uses 2 tri-types. This needs a Beast and a Fiend, and also this banishes itself to revive something, and then this brings back a banished monster. So you can just use this to bring back this, and then the Baphomet brings back this again. So you have a lot of grind game here, and then for the last Chimera card, we run the Illusion Beast because we need a way to OTK. And this deck, sometimes if you play it, has issues with killing the opponent because no Hecahands monster can actually destroy a monster by battle. So if your opponent has a monster, they'll just block a lot of damage that way. But not if you have Chimera, the Illusion Beast, you just put something to 0 and then you crash into it a bunch of times. You have a lot of material in this deck, thanks to the Hecahands. Then we have a whopping 33 points for Guardian Chimera. Now this is a choice I made because this is my favorite card, but also I just think this is such an important card to break boards. I think the deck loses a lot of value if you can't just going second, dodge a Veiler or whatever interaction your opponent has, a pop, into a Guardian Chimera, which can then non-targeting pop cards on the field. Plus, this is just the best and most versatile thing you can do. If you go first, you set your Guardian Chimera, you set your Chimera Fusion, you make Guardian Chimera with just 3 random monsters, where any other monster would take you specific materials. Let's go over those real quick. I have some more targets just to compensate that we only have 1 Guardian Chimera. And the first one is the Azamina Soul. This takes 1 illusion and a fiend monster, and on summon targets a card and sends it. It not being destruction removal is very good, and this is also generally easy to make because you have fiend monsters, you often go into Baphomet, that's your fiend, and you have a lot of illusion monsters. So this is generally easy to make. And what's nice about this is it can take just 2 material from the field, and if you play this deck, you will oftentimes just have a full field because you can't link, right? You just steal monsters from your opponent and you have a full board of stuff. So just clearing stuff up that way is good. Another target we have is Regos Tapelia. Just another target to fuse into with a fusion monster and a dark. And then we have Magnum the Reliever. Any monster on your field plus any monster in your hand. Generally, this is not as good in this as it would be with a Patchwork engine because we don't really want to banish our Chimera fusion. But in a pinch, we can always make this get a pop, maybe, or just a draw. Generally, you just want a monster to make with our fusion. For the Hecahands parts, we have 2 Jowza and 1 Xeno. This is 10 points, of course, so I wouldn't run more than 1, but you only need 1 because you just summon this. If your opponent removes it, you can bring it back with the Chimera here, and you can also, if you get it banished, for example, you use the Tartarus to make another Jowza, you get it banished, and then you bring it back with the Baphomet. So there's a lot of ways to recycle this. It's also an illusion, so if you fuse your Baphomet away, you can just bring this back with the Baphomet effect. So more than enough ways to bring it back, so you just want 1 to make it at some point. And that's the fusion monsters. For the rest of the deck, we have some rank 6s as a toolbox. We have Goblin's Crazy Beast. This is back row removal, but it's also a fiend that is summoning itself back from the grave at any point. So it's free fusion material. It's a fiend, so it's a very good type because you can make this with it, you can make this with it, you can make this with it, and of course, Guardian Chimera. So generally, this deck has a very good way of dealing with monsters, but back row removal is kind of rare. Then we have Wallow. This is a very, very strong rank 6 if you play T-element format, but it also has extra synergy in this deck because it can also summon cards from your opponent's graveyard. So if you, for example, get hand trapped on your Hecahands line, you can summon this with your Chimera engine, which is generally easy, and then you summon the hand trap your opponent made, and that hand trap plus any illusion monsters goes into your Hecahands Jowza. Then we have 1 Ptolemy M7 just to recur some resources. There's a neat line. Both the angels are level 6. So if you have an angel attached, for example, you have a Yardle here, and then you have, I don't know, something like this. You have a Yardle attached, you can activate the effect, you grab back your Iptal, then the Yardle triggers to set you a counter trap that is in the grave, and then you can activate the Iptal from the hand to summon from the deck. So very, very nice for recursion. And then the last one is the Photon Bouncer. This is just a generic endport piece. If you can make a rank 6 play and you don't know what you're playing against, so you don't know if back row removal or grave hate is good, you just make this. This is a monster negate, and that's generally pretty good. So that is the extra deck. And lastly, before we go into some combos, we are going to show you the side deck. So you of course have seen the Diabelza. This is main deckable, of course. I had it in the main deck when Radiant Typhoon was still the best deck, but now it has gotten hit. So I don't know how viable it is right now, but this is generally just a good option going first. I just didn't put it in the main because it itself is a brick, and the deck already is lacking some starters. So you have other option, of course. You can end up Anubis or whatever you want, but I just wanted to keep the floodgates low, but feel free to play whatever here. We have 2 DD Crow. This is a 0-point hand trap that could go in the main, but I think since we already have the Godos, I didn't want to have more Graveyard Hate as our hand traps. But if it's particularly good in the matchup, you can side it in. We have some back row removal, Cosmic Cyclone. I don't like Twin Twister because we don't want to discard that much, so I don't run that. We have 3 Lava Golem. Now I'm trying this out over the Kaiju. This is a fiend, so it's nice to fuse away in the pinch, but your Hecahands, which is the majority of your starters, don't need your normal summon. So you can just summon the Lava Golem and just do Hecahands plays from there, and it should be generally good. But I'm still testing out how much this conflicts with the Chimera engine. Then we have 3 Mind Control. Again, this is a board breaker, 0 points, but also what's very important is you steal a monster from your opponent. You can use the effect and then you can tribute it off for your Jaza, because it is in possession of your opponent. And lastly, we have Dark Realm Maw. This is just 0-point flexible board breaker that you can use here. So that is the deck, and let's show you some combos. Now let's go over the basic Mirror Sword Knight combo. If you have watched the other video, you will probably know where this is going, but I just wanted to talk over the sequencing and how you would play out this combo in Genesys format. So if you only have the Mirror Sword Knight, you're just going to normal summon it, use the effect to special summon a Baphomet. Note that if you have any illusion in your hand, then you probably want to go for a Gazelle and do a 2-card combo. But here, let's say we have 4 hand traps in hand, so we just get the Big Wing Baphomet, grabbing us Chimera, Fusion, and Gazelle, and then we use this to fuse into our Chimera, and that'll have some triggers. So Gazelle 1, Baphomet target Sword Knight 2, and Chainlink 3, the Chimera, to hand rip your opponent in the end phase. So you're going to get this back, and you are going to add yourself a Yaddle here. So now you're going to go and grab back the Chimera Fusion, and then you're going to use the Yaddle to go and add yourself a Hidden Hecahands. If you have anything to send, you can set that and send, but otherwise you can make a choice here. Do you want the Mirror Sword Knight negate, or do you want more material for your Chimera Fusion here and have this set up in the grave as your revive? In this case, I would probably send this away. We're going to add our Iptal and set a counter trap of your choice. Whatever the matchup is, you're going to go for that. For this case, I just took the Spell Trap Negate because we are very good into monsters. And now you can activate the Iptal to summon Gygas or Brios. You can choose whatever you think is better. Again, if you have matchup knowledge, you can decide based off of that. But like if you know your opponent has monsters mostly in deck, you can go for Brios, hit another card in the hand, and then you get the hand drop in the end phase, so your opponent is already down 2 cards. But if you want to play it safe, you go for the Gygas. Now, one note I wanted to make is we did go for the Yaddle off of Gazelle instead of the Iptal. That is because if this misses, we still have the Omni negate, the Spell Trap negate, even though we don't get the other negate, we don't get to Jaza. But let's just activate this effect and say we hit something. So let's put a monster of your opponent here, so we can tribute those two to go into a Jaza. And here you can, again, decide what you want to do. We have 1 Jaza on the field and 1 Hecahands in the grave, so going for the fusion spell would require you to have set the Ip. I'll use it on your opponent's monster, you summon it, and then you can fuse it off. I would probably not do that. I would probably just go for the counter trap. And yeah, that is it for your turn. Your opponent loses a card in the end phase, and you have on the field a Mirror Sword Knight, which goes into Baphomet for more add. You have a Chimera Fusion, and you have 2 counter traps. So if you went for the Brios, your opponent's down 2 cards, right? They start with 4 cards, and you have 2 counter traps to counter a spell and a monster. And that is already really, really strong. Plus, we have the Chimera Fusion. This can't be destroyed by battle. We have the Revive, and we have more cards in our hand. This is all off of 1 card. Now, as a fusion deck, of course, Chimera Hecahands shines with its 2-card combos, and I wanted to show off one of them here, being Gazelle and one of the Angels. This works both ways. You just have to sequence it differently. I'm gonna go with the Iptal combo here, but I'm gonna let you do your homework for the second one. So I'm gonna normal summon Gazelle, and I'm gonna add the Chimera Fusion, and then I'm gonna shuffle back the Iptal using its effect to summon a Gygas. Now we use the Gygas. Of course, if your opponent Veilers, you have the Chimera Fusion to dodge. They should have Veilered the Gazelle anyway, but you're gonna use the effect, and you're gonna grab hopefully a monster from your opponent, being in this case an Ignister, and then we are gonna go here into our Jaza. Jaza is then gonna go at your Hidden Hecahands, and then you can use that to send the Jaza. This works here very well because, again, Ash is not that common, so if you get Ashed here, that would be very sad, but generally that is not that common in Genesys. You're going to grab yourself the other Angel counterpart here, and in this case Yaddle, and you're going to set up yourself one of the counter traps of your choice. In this case, I took the Yaddle. Then you're going to go and you're going to go activate the Chimera Fusion and fuse these 2 into a Baphomet. Now you have some chain links. You're going to go chain link 1 Gazelle, chain link 2 Baphomet, and then chain link 3 Yadel in this case to reset your hidden Hecahands. Generally, you don't care that much about the hidden Hecahands here, but if your opponent has Skullmeister or anything, then you don't want to get the Gazelle hand trapped. Now, if you started with a counter trap already in your hand, that counter trap would be your send off of hidden Hecahands, and then you can reset it here, so keep that in mind. But here we're just going to set this for follow-up. Our Baphomet is going to send an Iptal, and our Gazelle is going to add the Yadel, because we haven't used that yet, right? Now, in a new chain, the Iptal, because it's sent to the grave, will trigger to revive a Hecahands monster, and here you can go grab your Yadel back. After that, you're going to go Chimera Fusion, grab it back. Now you have this, and then you can go for the Yadel, put it back in your deck, and then either grab the other counter trap, or in this case, we can grab the Tartaros, because in our grave there are 3 Hecahands. I like this option because you can activate this, banish all 3, and this will put your Jaza into your banish pile, which means that your Baphomet can bring it back later if it somehow hits the grave. And this also means you can go into your Xeno. So even if your opponent nibs you, you have the Xeno to get 1 extra deck grip, and then in your opponent's turn you just go Baphomet, bring back the Jaza, and you have your counter trap live again, plus your Chimera Fusion and some follow-up. But here you would just steal one of your opponent's extra deck monsters, and then you can go overlay these 2 for any XZs that you like, but in this case I'm going for the Photon Strike Bouncer. And then we set a card, and in your opponent's turn we can, in the main phase, steal another card from their extra deck. Then what's nice here is that the Photon Strike Bouncer, whenever it detaches the Yadel to negate something, the Yadel will trigger to reset your fusion spell. So in your opponent's, in your next turn, you can make another Jaza just off of the fusion spell, or you can also just detach the Baphomet so that that can banish itself to bring back the Jaza here. So 2-card combo, very, very layered board. And I also have another line that would include Nightmare Apprentice, but it is the same starting hand, but plays through a hand trap. So let me show you that. Okay, so let's talk about playing through hand traps. So we have the same cards as we had in the previous combo, but now we have a Vader of our opponent. So in this case, if you would start with the Gazelle and the Imperm, the Vader this, then you would be locked out of your Chimera part. So what you can do is you can go Iptal, and you summon your Gygas or Breos. Breos kind of forces your opponent to use the hand trap, but it's also a bit risky, so you have to decide on your own. And generally, if your opponent has a Mourner, they have to do it on summon, and or if you summoned your Gazelle first and grabbed your Chimera Fusion, then they also have to do it on summon, because otherwise you can activate, they Veiler, you dodge. But generally they would have Veilered the Gazelle here. So if your opponent waits for you to activate this effect and Veiler you then you can't use the effect anymore. But if you run Nightmare Apprentice, there's a line where you can still go through all of it, your stuff. So normal summon Gazelle, grab the Chimera Fusion, and then you're gonna Chimera Fusion these 2 for a Baphomet, and you're gonna have chaining 1 Gazelle, chaining 2 Baphomet, and you can send the Iptal here for the Baphomet, and your Gazelle is gonna add you Nightmare Apprentice. If you don't run the Nightmare Apprentice and you're on the same list that I do, then you just go for Yadel and you do a smaller combo. But this is generally very neat, because now the Iptal will trigger summoning back the Gygas. Again, if it was a Mourner, then you can just activate the Gygas effect here, because you haven't used the once per turn yet. But if you didn't, then you do the following. You add back the Chimera Fusion, of course. Then you discard a card for the Nightmare Apprentice, which gets you the Yadel. And now you have 2 6s on board. So you can go and overlay these 2 for a Wallow, and then use the effect, detaching 2, to resummon the hand trap your opponent used. And that is a monster that is owned by your opponent. So now you can use this and your Gygas for a Jaza, which then can search you the hidden Hecahands that we will use to send our Wallow, which is no longer of use. And we set one of our counter traps, and we can grab ourselves a Godos just as an extra hand trap. And then we can use the Yadel to set either the Ibal to add either the Ibal or we add the Tartaros. Tartaros in this case would have to banish the Jaza from the field. So you can go and banish these two and the Jaza and make your Xeno, or you just go for the counter trap setup and have the Jaza on the field. That is up to you. Generally, I like this setup here a lot, and then you can set the Chimera Fusion and you still have 3 more cards in your hand. You had to discard 1 for the Apprentice, and that is a Chimera Fusion, a Godos, 2 counter traps, and you have the Baphomet in the grave setup. So that is it for the Genesys deck profile and combo guide. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like and subscribe and leave a comment. If you have some questions or some suggestions of how you would adjust the deck to have the points allocated somewhere else, let me know. And otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.